we should be doing sales and marketing alignment, shouldn't we? Because marketing and sales, and not many people see that. But we're not today. Actually, we're talking about a bit of a different subject. If this, where do I press that? No? Oh, okay. Sorry. You have to guess what it's about now. It's actually come about. Okay. Oh, thank you. It's come about because, as we mentioned, 2025 planning is front and centre for most people. Hands up if you're in or just about to start planning for next year. Those that haven't put your hand up, hurry up. We're running out of time. And interestingly, talking to lots of marketers, they're being told to align with what revenue is looking for 2025. Makes sense, right? But we thought we'd explore that because we have lots of conversations with both sides of it. I think as many of users are sales as they are marketers within our platform and our demographics. So we thought we'd have some good insight there. So hopefully that'll be interesting. The next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the sort of things maybe you need to be considering as you're planning 2025 and beyond. Hopefully that's of interest. Yeah, great, brilliant. So what matters most to revenue leaders? And this is what we're hearing on a regular basis. This probably isn't rocket science to any of you, but close rates is a massive thing, right? And when the board is sitting there, how successful are we being as a business? Are we closing enough deals? Are we closing them fast enough? And we know, and I'm sure it's not just us who's experiencing it, but right now deals are taking longer to close than ever. We're seeing CFOs getting involved in deals which are much smaller than they ever used to. The scrutiny around GDPR and data privacy and security is much more than ever it was. So, revenue leaders are sitting there. What can we do to help accelerate these close rates? The average contract value is coming under pressure because there's more competition in the market, and we all have to be careful not to get into what we call a Dutch auction. It shouldn't be sold on price. It should be sold on value, and I'm sure that's something as a business we all agree with. And renewal rates are becoming a massive thing for so many businesses we speak to. Of course they should, but as it's getting more expensive and more difficult to win new logos, there's a lot of focus on, well, the existing customers we got, we can't ignore them. We have to keep them because we could potentially upsell them, but also they're very valuable to our business. So these are things that really matter to revenue leaders. And interesting conversations we have with people around why do they think these things are coming under pressure right now? And one that comes out a lot, and this is mainly from marketers, and I can see a few people laughing already in the audience. The sales team aren't very good. Now, if that isn't you're nodding there, that isn't actually the case for most businesses. The sales team are as good as they ever were. It's just getting a much more challenging market out there. The product doesn't fit in the market anymore. Well, that does happen sometimes, but invariably, if you've got a product that fits in an industry or a space, it probably still does. And the economy is always an excuse that's made up, and everyone understands when the economies are tough, it's harder to get people to spend their money. But the thing we hear more often than not is that there's a poor fit pipeline that sales are having to work with. And if you're a salesperson who's going after an opportunity that isn't really a great fit, it causes problems, right? And all of those things we spoke about before, if the majority of the pipeline are poor fit opportunities, you're not going to close as many, so those close rates are going to be hit. It's going to take you longer because you're trying to fit this square peg into this round hole, so it's going to take longer to close that deal. And your average order values are probably going to go down because you're trying to persuade this company it doesn't really fit to buy it, so you normally have to discount. So I think poor fit pipeline is one that really is an issue, and we're going to dig into a few of the reasons why around that. But quick show of hands. Does it resonate to anyone here that maybe your pipeline is full of opportunities, but maybe they're not all the best? Yeah, absolutely. You're not on your own. I suppose that's a good and bad signal. But why does this matter so much to you as you're planning things out for 2025? I think there's a few key things that we hear. Firstly, as we've said, the close rates seem to be falling for a lot of businesses we speak to, and the time to close is changing, average order value is going down, and churn rates are going up. Churn rates, I think that's an American term. It's basically the opposite of renewal rate. If you're not renewing someone, they churn. But anyway, they seem to be rising, and the overall effect of this is a real effect on sales and marketing alignment. If the numbers aren't there, marketing are often saying to sales, well, it's because we're giving you leads, you're not closing them. Sales are saying, well, actually, you're giving me rubbish leads, etc. And we see a lot of that going on. The upshot is that revenue numbers are being missed. And it's a real problem. And a quick show of hands of the marketers here. How many of you are B2B as opposed to B2C? So if you're a B2B, put your hand up. Majority. And the rest B2C? Yeah. So what we see, and this is really aimed at the B2B people, a lot of people in the B2B world are using B2C metrics to try and prove that things are working, i.e. I got a click-through rate of 0.7%, so my advertising campaign's working really well. Reality is, how many of those ads are going to people that you can actually sell to? And how many people you can actually sell to are clicking on those ads? And if you're using that as a way of proving success, the C-suite are catching on to that. Well, yeah, great, you're advertising to a load of people, but if it's the wrong people, that ends up in the pipeline being the wrong people and it causes problems. It all ends up with the revenue suite and the C-suite finding out and identifying sales and marketing teams as a cost center. And we all know the response of that is for most businesses, and I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, I'm sure we've all experienced this. First thing they ever cut is budget for marketing. Then it's headcount for marketing and sales. But then they continue doing the same things that weren't working before, but just with less people. It doesn't make any sense. So you end up with, as we were talking about, maybe a big chunk of leads that are irrelevant. You're relying on these anonymous click-through rates, and we've got an increase in website traffic. We have no idea who's coming. And it doesn't really work. And as I say, this creates a problem for businesses because we're trying to do the wrong things. But also as sales and marketers, we come under pressure with budget cuts and headcount cuts. So it's an old saying, but if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So if you find these problems are happening in your business in 2024, now's the time to make sure it doesn't happen in 2025. This all led to a concept that we talk around a lot as our business and with our prospects and customers we talk to. What we want to look at is how can we cut the waste out of our business? So we're not advertising to the wrong people. So we're not filling our pipeline up with the wrong people. And if we can cut resources rather than cut waste, rather than resources, that'll have a much more positive impact on revenues. Makes sense, doesn't it? So we're going to explore that in a little bit more detail.
Thank you, I'll take that. And I think this is where narrowing your focus is going to be really helpful and moving from that lead-based motion more to an account-based motion. But it really starts with helping you know who those accounts are and what buying signals they're showing. And this is an example of a typical B2B buyer journey today. And I think this has changed over the last few years, particularly with the pandemic. When you were faced with a lot of how we engage with our prospects, events like this weren't a thing for a good year. So how we engaged with those buyers changed completely. So being able to get that insight into actually what accounts are engaging, what accounts are coming to my website, what research are they doing off my website? Are my existing customers looking at our competitors? Are existing customers looking for new products? And we don't know all of this. So it's being able to surface all of that insight and really being able to use account intelligence to light up that buyer journey. And it's enabling you as marketers to see, well, these are the accounts that we should be prioritizing. We might have 400 accounts in our target account list, for example, but there might only be 10% of those that are showing those relevant buying signals. These are the ones that we need to prioritize. We're going to double down our budgets and drive engagement with those accounts and share that with our sales teams to follow up as well. So it's really helping you identify and find those opportunities that you're missing. But again, it's helping you prioritize the right fit accounts, so really understanding what does our ideal customer profile look like? Who are the customers that continue to renew with us, buy new products? And what are those white space accounts and opportunities that we're missing for new business as well? So being able to get all of that insight into who is in market, who's showing those buying signals. Are they looking at our website, visiting our website anonymously? Are they showing intent on new products? Are they researching competitors? Are they looking at G2 comparison sites against us and our competitors? So being able to see all of those accounts that are showing those buying signals, what those buying signals are, and where those accounts are in your sales funnel, so that you're then able to serve them relevant messaging that's relevant to what product interest they're showing, relevant to their industry, and where they are in that buyer journey as well. And importantly, know how they're engaging as well. So it helps you understand who's on our website, what different personalization experiences can we serve up to those accounts. It's a financial services account that might come onto your website. We want them to see a different message compared to a pharmaceutical company, for example. We want to then be able to serve that insight to our sales team. How are they responding to our email campaigns that we're running through our marketing automation and through our sales outreach as well? What do those conversations look like for sales? So all of that engagement, bringing that all into one view to see what's working from a marketing standpoint, what that engagement is looking like, so that you then can prioritise your budgets and your sales team's focus on those accounts that are showing really relevant intent and buying signals. So importantly, it helps you understand like what tactic we can use, particularly getting that insight into those buying stages. We know for this stage of the buying cycle, event attendance is going to help like really drive that opportunity to close rate. It's going to help accelerate that deal that's already in pipeline, or it's perhaps a webinar channel or advertising that's really going to start driving those accounts top of funnel. So getting all of that insight into what's working today. When should sales engage as well? So kind of gone are the days like passing over that lead and there's one level of engagement. Actually, it's looking at it at the account view. There's multiple people in that account that is engaging. This is what they're looking at. These are the types of content that they're researching. And therefore, that informs what sales should say and do at each of those relevant stages of the pipeline.
We're going to get into some of the, I suppose, the tactics behind this now. So hands up who uses intent today in their business. Just a couple. Make a note of everyone else. Now we can go after. And as last time, I'll make you put your hand up probably. But are you all seeing on LinkedIn the messaging around intent isn't important and intent is sending us off on wild goose chases and things like that? There's a lot of that out in the marketplace. And I think the way we view it is if, no, that is a deliberately blank screen, because if you're not using intent to build your strategy next year, that's what you're basing it on. It's a lot of guesswork in there, right? You might have someone on your website, but what if they're not on your website? You're not going to know about them. You're not going to know what's going on. So I think intent is a key part of identifying this is where we need to focus next year, awareness campaigns or whatever it may be. The key isn't do we need to use intent, but we've got to use accurate intent. There's so many false positives out there. I don't think anyone really thinks if someone unsubscribes from an email, that's a buying signal. Makes zero sense, right? But some companies will give you that as a buying signal. So I'll give you an example. I sell smart devices and I'm interested in people who are looking at Apple devices because guess what? I can sell against that. So it makes sense, right? We see there's an Apple device out there. We go and give that signal to the salesperson. That company you're interested in right now has been exploring Apple devices, someone we should go after. A lot of intent will also tell you if someone's researching the best recipe for apple pies because it's got the word Apple in it. It's a simple example, but it's so important. You imagine the frustration sales get if they're told, go after that account, and they pick up the phone and say, hey, I understand you're interested in our products. Why? I unsubscribed from your email chains. What are you doing? That creates obviously unhappiness with the customer, but the salesperson quickly gets sick of and tired of getting these intent signals and gives up on it. So it's really important if you're going to look into doing this stuff, find intent that is transparent, so that every time you get a signal, you can see that it's relevant and act on it and get away from this black box approach of saying, go after that account because we told you to. There's lots of AI technologies out there. Some AI is brilliant, by the way, but some is just sending people off in the wrong direction with false positives. So to make sure that you're identifying that, but also don't think of intent alone as the silver bullet. It's a useful tool. To Leanne's point, it's great to identify that that company is showing relevant buying signals and I should go after it. If they've never been to your website, they've never spoken to sales, they've never replied to an email, don't give that to sales. You need to create some awareness. Get them to understand you're a brand they should trust. If they've been on your website, they just haven't filled out a form, that's a very different story. So combining all of those things that you know about that person together, get that 360-degree view is going to be really important. But don't rely just on a potentially false positive from AI. It could send your salespeople off in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and as Paul said, we definitely believe in transparency over black boxes, and it's really understanding like why that intent is important. I need to be able to trust in the data that I'm able to surface the right kinds of intent. So We use demand-based as a marketing team, and we are able to understand that relevant intent. So right now we're running competitor campaigns. So I'm able to see these accounts are showing relevant intent for this competitor. They're searching G2 for demand-based versus this particular competitor. We can put those into an account list and know, but these are the accounts that are a really good fit. They're showing that relevant intent. We want to run this competitor displacement campaign as a simple kind of use case. But we're able to understand and get that insight in terms of why it's surfacing that account and why that intent is relevant.
I said I wasn't going to do this, but I am. Hands up if you do advertising at the moment in your business. Pretty much everyone does, right? How many of you advertise as if you sell boots and shoes? I'll give you a simple example. If I was selling boots and shoes, I would see Leanne searching and researching boots, and I'd go, brilliant, that's someone I should advertise to, and I'll advertise to her. But pretty much everyone else in this room could at some point buy boots and shoes. So guess what? I'm going to advertise to all of you as well. Makes sense, right? Because the B2C world, that's what we do. So many people in the B2B world advertise like that. They'll advertise to anyone and everyone and hope that some of the relevant people see it. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Imagine if I sell to banks and financial institutions. That's what my technology does. And I advertise to French Connection. French Connection's a really well-known brand, but it's not going to help my business. And if they click on that ad, yes, I got to click on my advertising campaign, but it's not from anyone I could ever sell to. It probably will drive them to my website, so we get an increase in website traffic. Brilliant, but not anyone that's relevant to my business. And worst case scenario, then probably end up in the pipeline. And all of a sudden, there's all these opportunities in the pipeline for a sales team that can't sell it. So it's really important if you're going to spend your precious budget advertising to companies, you're only advertising to those companies your business can sell to. You probably know the type of industry, the size of business, number of employees, region, etc., that is relevant to your business, that your team can actually sell to and your business can then renew and work with. Why would you advertise to anyone else? So that's something to really consider as you go into next year. If you're not sure whether you're doing it or not, if your success metrics are an anonymous click-through rate, anonymous increase in website traffic, you're selling like you sell boots and shoes, it's probably time to think about that. You've got to be a little bit more clever with your budgets, especially as budgets are being limited these days.
And so again, coming back to that kind of trust point as well, it's being able to really get that trust in the data and understanding that it's, we're serving these relevant or serving ad campaigns to those accounts that are showing that relevant intent. We're able to then segment all of those campaigns and it's really relevant to where those accounts are in that buyer journey.
I think the other thing, and this is probably selfishly from me, was that a 5-minute warning? Okay. Sorry, it's a subtle one. Sorry, you didn't see that anymore. Selfishly from a sales perspective, if the advertising is generating that pipeline full of opportunities that my sales team go after, sending them off on, we call it wild goose chases, and I have to point this out because it was pointed out to me, it's a swan. You try finding a picture of people chasing a goose online, it's not easy. But the point of and so remember this one, if nothing else, if you're filling your pipeline up with opportunities, you've been advertising to the wrong people, you're driving them to the website, getting them into your pipeline, you're sending these salespeople off on wild goose chases. And it was described to me the other day as like having AI driving sat-nav. So you're giving your salesperson this car, AI is going to tell you where to go, and you drive off and you spend half your time going down blind alleys and dead ends, and eventually the salesperson says, do you know what, I'm turning that sat-nav off, I'm going to get my map out and start exploring again. And there's nothing worse than seeing a salesperson spend half his time researching and not selling, or her time, researching and not selling, right? We want them out there selling. And let's get away from sending our salespeople off on the wrong places.
And again, to my earlier point, it's really around that quality over quantity. So moving away from that, leads-based model that many of us marketeers have been kind of used to for a number of years, and really shifting into who are those accounts that are showing those buying signals that are in market today that we can spend and prioritize our budget and resources to.
Okay, we talked about renewal rates. This whole thing builds up. Let's say we got that French Connection deal that we were talking about before, and we managed to get either a really good salesperson or a really bad salesperson, depends how you look at it, managing to fit that square peg in that round hole and selling French Connection. Initially, great, we've got a good logo on there, we've got a bit of revenue, and that's helped our close rates go up. But the reality is you're passing the post-sales team and the business an opportunity that is almost certainly never going to be happy because it's not a good fit. The customer success team are going to hate it because it's not a good fit. But more importantly, it's going to probably churn at the end of the year because it hasn't fit well. None of that is good for the business. And I'm sure if most of the businesses like us, if we don't get our client into years 2 and 3, we actually lose money on it. You've got to start thinking about the effect targeting the wrong people, getting them into the pipeline has, not just to the salespeople, but the business overall in terms of, our churn rates are going up. That looks really bad for every business. This is one I'll let you take on because I think this is something we hear a lot about businesses when they're looking for platforms, things that you need to bear in mind.
Yeah, and I think it's really key in terms of, being able to kind of work to how you work to today. I think that part of it is what we call journey stages, but it's essentially looking at your sales funnel, how you operate and getting that insight. And that's fully customizable within demand-based, but also within multiple journey stages. So if you're selling to enterprises, mid-market, you've got different product lines, being able to create, actually our go-to-market motion is different for different regions or different product lines. Being able to have those different sales funnels essentially is really important. So we're able to help you customize and set up those multiple journeys as well.
And I think that's really important because the way you work today is the way you want to work today, but tomorrow you might change. You might bring in a new product line, you might bring in a new sales team. Your sales leaders might decide they want to measure on different things. You've got to have that ability not to be straitjacketed, is that an awful term to use? Your business wants to evolve and you need, if you're going to invest in a platform, get a platform that involves. I know we've had to do this very quickly, so there's probably lots of questions you'll ask. If there is, there's a stand just out there. But I suppose our message is, as you look forward into 2025 and you start doing your planning, let's not hope and guess what our strategy is. Use the insight that's out there to understand who you should be focusing on, what messaging you be utilizing. I'll be looking at awareness. I'll be looking at engagement campaigns. What is it that's relevant so that you're not filling this funnel full of opportunities that at the end of the day the business can't sell to and more importantly doesn't want to sell to.
Yeah, so I think just kind of recap some of the things that we've talked about. It's really about avoiding wasted time, wasted budget, wasted resources. So targeting those companies that are a good fit for your business, that you can and want to sell to, the ones that are showing those relevant buying signals, and only adding those accounts and putting those opportunities into pipeline. You're much more likely to close a deal that way, and it's going to be a much better fit for your business, and that helps with that renewal rates that Paul's mentioned, giving sales those opportunities that they can actually close, working with them to understand who the accounts are that they want to sell to, and in turn giving them that insight into what they're showing, and winning deals that you can deliver value to and help retain, because it's a good fit on both sides.
I think a message we always like to end on is that when businesses are looking at you as marketing and sales departments, we don't want them to look at you as a cost center. You need to be able to prove that what you're delivering is something that makes a real difference to the business. So let's try and move away from that anonymous click-through rate and hope that they believe that that's relevant, and start looking at, can we prove that the people we're focusing on are the right people for our business? The people we're putting into pipeline are the right people for our business. So we're helping with the close rates, the average order values, the time to close, renewal rates, all those things that are critical to the business, so that then they take a step back and go, wow, what they're delivering for us is really making a difference to the business. And hopefully we'll move away from that horrible model of, oh, things aren't working, let's cut budget, let's cut headcount in marketing and sales. Thank you for listening. I hope that was a useful starter for your 2025 planning anyway. But as I say, we have a stand just outside the door if you have any questions.